Hey everybody, and welcome back to Human Nature. I'm Jamie Clements.
I'm Louis Blake.
And today we are joined by the brilliant Maya Raichoora. Maya, welcome to the pod. Maya is one of the UK's leading mental fitness experts and author of her brand new book, Visualize, and a friend of mine as well, which is always important to say. Maya, very excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I'm very excited on it.
Amazing. So I have, and we were talking about this morning, one question that I'm going to grill everybody with off the top of the podcast, which is a challenging question I like to ask friends, clients, and now podcast guests, which is, with no reference to your past or your work, who are you?
I am exploring and evolving and on a mission to become better in myself, but also help others.
Amazing. I appreciate it's a tricky question.
Yeah, it's tricky. I need like an hour to think of that, to be fair. I think by the end of it, it'll be very different, that mission.
I like that the answer wasn't fixed as well, right? Because I think we can get into a situation where we try and adopt this, I am this, and it limits our opportunity to evolve beyond where we currently are. And everything's changing and evolving all the time. And if we attach to one identity, very difficult to grow from there, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think, I guess growing up, all of us, it's black and white thinking, and you get put in boxes, whether it's positions, labels, we can even look at just gender, for example, but regardless of the actual thing, it's just very black and white. And I think then when it comes to individuals growing mentally, physically, emotionally, we also get stuck in the problem of, well, this is just who I am. Or but I can't change, or I'm scared to change. And so, yeah, it's that evolution, I think, is where the magic lies.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming to present day, and I'd love to go back as well and look at what has led you here, because I think that's obviously a key part of your journey and the work that you now do. Tell us a little bit more, and for the listeners, now bringing in, I suppose, reference to your work and the amazing stuff that you've done and all the growth that you've had in the last couple of years. What is at the core of what you do? And also, I think importantly, why you do it? Yeah.
So my big mission in life is to make mental fitness as common as physical fitness. We all grew up in schools and societies where PE and like physical education or playing a sport was very normal, but none of us ever got taught or had the tools to train the mind, like mental education. And I think this is very different from mental health, because I think everyone has one. If you've got a mind, you've got a mental health. The mental fitness aspect is, what are the everyday tools, techniques, no matter how small, that you're doing every day to train your mind to be better, be bolder, perform the best you can, feel the best you can. So there's a massive education piece of my work, which I do find quite challenging because, you're changing norms, you're changing ideas. But I mainly do this through the power of visualization. I think a lot of people have heard of visualization through different means, but fundamentally it is one of the most powerful mental training techniques in the world. And it's been used by athletes for decades, but it's never trickled down to mainstream society. And actually, even now, elite athletes also don't do it as much. I've done it for now over, 8 years? And it's just incredible how profound the impact it can have on our lives, but also just the general maintenance of a good mental health. So yeah, in my work, that's the big mission. Work a lot with elite athletes, C-suites, etc. But really, it's about getting more people on this journey, changing the narrative and making it sexy, if I can say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What resistance do you normally find with people? Because I think when you say visualization, people say, well, I'm not spiritual. It sounds a bit wishy-washy. Yeah. It sounds like it's intimidating. Yeah. How do you break through that initial resistance?
It's so true. And I get a lot of so I don't believe in manifestation, so I'm not going to do this. And I get it, that is the language it has been used in for a while. So the resistance is either I don't have time, or it's, but I'm feeling fine, so I don't need to do anything, or it's okay, this is too woo-woo, manifestation. I think to all those things, what I would say is the one you don't have time, well, if you're training your body, you absolutely have to be training your mind. It's half your health. To the manifestation or woo-woo one, I think it really does come down to language. Like, that's why I like to root it in neuroscience and, asking people, well, why did Ronaldo practice visualization? Why did Michael Phelps talk about how visualization helped him perform better and win his 26 gold medals? This isn't just a matter of, okay, I'm going to think something and it just happens. It's about wiring your brain for success or for emotional strength. And so I can obviously work to explain it, but what I find really impactful is just try it. Just try it. Try it once. I'm not going to suggest that this is the silver bullet or the magic thing that everyone should do and everything's going to be amazing. I think when it comes to training the mind, you've got to experiment, you've got to try, you've got to commit. It's a bit like, I'm sure all of us three, when we enter a gym, we don't do the same exercises. There's a reason, right? You've got a different body, I've got a different need and goal. So in the same way, expose yourself to the different techniques and ideas, try it and see what works for you.
Jamie definitely doesn't do the same exercises. He copped out in the gym this morning on the weight that I was lifting. Said he was feeling delicate after jiu-jitsu. But I'm not going to let you answer. To your point, I'll take the win. To your point, we're all visualizing, whether we're conscious of it or not, though, right? But just most people are running a negative program.
Yeah.
So where would you start with someone? Let's say I came to you and I'm like, listen, I'm struggling. I feel like I'd like to try visualization, but I don't know where to start. Like, where would you start with someone like that?
Yeah. Do you know, this is a really great question. So yesterday I was in this like coffee shop and the guy next to me was on the phone and obviously you shouldn't be eavesdropping, but he was talking quite loud.
Yeah, absolutely. Spill the tea.
Exactly. No, but he was basically saying, oh, like, I've got this event in the evening. It's like a networking event, I think, for his company. And he was like, but like, what if I go there and they just think I'm really weird? Or like, he was like, what if I make a mistake in what I say? Or what if actually I'm sitting on my own in the, in the event? And I was like, Maya, should you say something? Should you not? And then I actually turned around to just be like, but what if actually you go there and you have a really good time and you meet some really nice people? And he literally said like nothing to me. And then he was like, that's so interesting how I was literally seeing all the scenarios of things going wrong and just like getting quite anxious because I thought they'd judge me or I wouldn't do well. And this is exactly it. And then I said to him, because you're already doing that and your brain is good at it, what if you just redirected it in a new way? And even starting with that question, okay, but what if I did go and I met someone really good? And if we apply that to visualization, that's about then you closing your eyes and actually mentally rehearsing, okay, how am I going to walk in with confidence? How am I going to greet someone? What if, let's say, no one's talking to me? Well, why can't I see myself actually going to the, let's say, food bar and then chatting to someone there? So you start showing your mind the better possibilities. And, the brain is as such that if you have that negative mindset and you're constantly thinking, okay, this is going to go wrong, your brain will find every bit of evidence to support that. So yeah, things will go wrong. You will find every reason to be like, I told you, I'm not a confident person. I can't network. But actually, if you show your brain that this could be the case and this could be how good it gets, it will find evidence to support it. And so if someone was really starting out, I would first become really aware of where is your mind at the moment? What do you tend to say to yourself? What do you tend to visualize as well? And then practice just intentionally visualizing one scenario where you want to see going better, where you want to perform better. And it can just be like 1%. Even this podcast today, right? Like on the train, I close my eyes and I'm seeing, okay, how do I want to enter the room, Maya? With warmth, with competence. Now, as you were sitting on that sofa, how do you want to come across? So I'll mentally rehearse the things I want to say or, the tone of my voice, things like that. And it just means that when I'm here, I've done it before. So I can then perform in that way.
Yeah, I think there's a piece as well, to come back to your point on sort of the woo-woo and the spiritual associations that people have with visualization. I know Louis and myself definitely have a connection to spirituality in our lives, and I've certainly evolved my relationship with that and got more comfortable with embracing that. But there becomes a bit of it becomes undeniable when you see it in action. And I think that's the really interesting thing you're saying about just trying it, because when you are in that more negative headspace, and I see it in my own life from time to time as well, you just see those negatives and you bring, you know, from a sort of a manifestation law of attraction perspective, you attract more of the same. And so it's as soon as you can shift into that, you know, through whatever tools, in this case, visualization, which is such an effective one, into that more positive state of belief and that mind space, it all starts to come your way. And I think that's where the belief in these things starts to manifest itself, because people see the results and they see that real life example of how it works.
I think about this in terms of I spend a lot of time in Dubai, right?
Okay.
And I feel that you see photos of Dubai 30, 40 years ago and there was nothing there. And this thought comes where, in order for any of this to exist, somebody had to see it before it was built.
Yes.
Right? For that to be there now. And now we're all walking around experiencing it, and say what you want about Dubai, but the fact is that it wasn't there 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And in order for it to exist, there has to be a thought that this can exist, right? There has to be a vision of what will be created before it will be created. And I think that's a big vision. If we bring it all the way back to a small vision, it could be something as simple, like you say, as how are you going to walk into a room? That the mind seeks to control things that it can't control will find anxiety in those things. Whereas, as you said, I think it's a great example, rehearsing something simple like walking into a room with confidence and then feeling how that will feel, running that narrative, so helpful to then go into that space. It actually elicits an element of control over a situation where you otherwise wouldn't have it.
Yeah, and like it reminds me of that quote that I think Einstein said, where he was like, logic will take you from A to B, but imagination can take you everywhere. And, you know, when we're young, we do think quite big. We're like, oh, I want to be this. And what if we can do this? And even the other day I was on a walk and these kids passed this tree and was like, oh my gosh, wow, it's this magical cave. And I was like, is it? I don't see that. But then as we get older, it's like we dampen our imagination slightly, like whether we're conditioned or people tell us, no, you can't do this. You know, you have to follow this path. But we still have it. We just don't use it, or we're using it in the wrong way by, imagining the worst case. And it really is the case. It really is the point that if you can see something, I do genuinely believe you can make it happen, or you give yourself the best chance to make it happen. And I see so many people, whether it's like companies or individuals, who are like, yeah, I want this, but I have no idea what it looks like. But start seeing it, even if it's just little details. It really does make a difference. And I just want to come back to your point about the positive mindset. Like, the one thing that annoys me about conversations about like thoughts and mindset is like, you just can't have positive thoughts all the time. And I don't think we should strive to have that. You know, like someone loses their job and you're like, just look on the bright side. Well, no, it's crap. Like, also feel the depth of that hurt kind of thing. And I think where I saw a massive shift in my own life was moving away from, okay, Maya, you need to have a positive mindset, to how can I have a positive relationship with my mindset? Now, it's super different. That means a very different thing, because I will still have negative thoughts. I still get into spirals. But this time, it's not that I will, spend like 2-3 days just in that state. Now I can be like, okay, I'm noticing I've got these thoughts. How can I just go to neutral and then maybe positive? But we love jumping from like 0 to no, everything needs to be great. Let's ignore whatever's going on. And I find that is counterproductive.
Do you have an example of where that's come up for you? Where you've experienced that? Yeah.
Like gone from 0. Yes, actually. So I've been working on a really hard thing to take my work to America. It's been 2 years in the making. And we were all there. Everything was ready. And then something fell through at the end. And of course, getting any type of rejection is difficult. But like working with them for 2 years and then that happening, oh my gosh, my mindset immediately become like, well, you'll never get there. Or, it's because you're not good enough. Like, it's literally because you're not good enough. And it took me a second to step back. And then I was like, okay, let's look at the evidence here. Like, is that true? No. But instead of being like, no, you know what, Maya, something better is going to come. I wasn't there yet. I was actually feeling really hurt. So instead what I did is like, it's okay. Are there any things we can learn from this? Feel it for a little bit. And then with time, I was able to say, actually, like, let's use this as a bit of a redirection. And why not you do it yourself? Why not still go out there and try and make it happen just in a different way? And so it wasn't like, let's just pretend I'm not upset about it. Let's feel it. And then I moved on from it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that this has come up because I was just thinking about what are some of the things that I feel perhaps resistance or cynicism around some of this stuff with. And I think it's often exactly as you've kind of reframed there. At times, there's a thread in manifestation, visualization, mindset work of what feels like a form of toxic positivity or what might get labeled toxic positivity. It's this bypassing, this invalidation of like, just buck your ideas up and you'll be fine. And it's a form, if we don't get it right and do it in an accurate, compassionate way, of pushing down emotions. And we all know that that's no good for us. So sitting here, not as a cynic, but maybe with people listening who are maybe a little bit more skeptical, going, where's the line here between meeting reality on reality's terms and going, this is what is going on, and working with your mind, working with visualization to take positive steps forward? So kind of, I guess, this idea of fake it till you make it, or, that positive mindset that we get told to embody. Like, where's the line for you?
It's a really good question. I don't know if you've also seen, like, recently everyone talks about you just got to be so delusional, like don't even look at your reality. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe for like, I don't know, one person that works. But I think where I see the most power in, and this is in terms of emotions, thoughts, and general like things that happen in life. First, accept where you are. Acceptance doesn't mean you are giving up or that you are just like accepting your situation. But yes, you have to accept who you are today and where you are. And that includes accepting your strengths as well as your limitations. Mm-hmm. Because if you aren't aware of that and you don't accept that, how can you actually go forward? And then once you've accepted, you have to ask yourself, like, do I want to change? Do I want to improve? Do I actually want to overcome these limitations? And then that's when you strive. And there is a balance between, at the end of the day, this is the reality we live in. So we want to make that as good as we can, but we can't just deny that. Otherwise we spend our lives just, in our minds. So I think it's that combination of accepting where you are, but knowing you can change it. That has a lot of power to it.
Quickly interrupting this episode to tell you about Vivo Barefoot, footwear designed to help you move naturally, just as nature intended. I've personally been wearing Vivos for more than 7 years now. They've helped me strengthen my feet, improve my balance, and reconnect with the ground, whether I'm training or just going about my day. Link is in the show notes to find out more, but for now, back to the episode. I love the introspective element of what you just said, because when it comes to visualization, a lot of the time, what I've experienced in talking to people about it is, I want this car, I want this watch, I want this holiday. And most people stop there and then, okay, I'm going to visualize this. But you're looking for the means of achieving something deeper, right? And we very rarely ask the question beyond that, which is why? Why do I want that car? It wasn't the car that I was looking for. It was the validation from other people. Why do I want the validation from other people? Because when I don't feel seen, I feel like this. Why do you? And when you go down, you go down that path, you start to get to the point, well, wow, actually, I don't need the car because I'm going to get the car and I'm still going to feel the same because there's a car out there that's even better. So is that need to like actually ask yourself, really, what do I really want? Very often it comes down to, I want to be seen. I want to feel connection to other people. I want to feel peace. I want to feel challenge maybe. And these things exist in a feeling, not the manifestation of that feeling in action. And I feel like I've definitely been on that journey where I felt like I have to launch this business. I have to grow this business. And actually what I was looking for wasn't what the business was going to achieve. It was the recognition of doing that thing. And my whole entrepreneurial journey has changed when I can assess the reason behind doing something as opposed to the thing as a final kind of objective, if that makes sense. Have you seen that with people where they kind of attach to these arbitrary things that perhaps are less about what they want and more about what they think they want?
Yes, I think So the thing I notice, and this is amongst definitely high performers, but also, a lot of people I interact with, is there's a little bit of confusion about what do I want versus what I think I want, or what does my parents want me to do, or what do I think society wants me to do, whether it's getting married at this age or having kids. And none of this work can happen unless you do take that step back and say, you've got to learn about yourself. I think just like how we, we have friends or partners that we spend time with, we go on dates with them. You've got to do that with yourself to be like, well, what do you actually want? And you don't get the answer the next day. You get the answer through trial and error, through making those mistakes, through realizing, okay, I'm in a group of these people and I just feel awful. This is not where I want to be. That's the data we have to take. Then with that, yes, it's asking yourself, okay, well, why do I want it? And that is really about, does it connect to my values? Does it connect to, who I am, what I'm good at? And then I think the bigger one of all of this is, who do I want to be? That's really important as well, because it's like, if you get the cars and whatever, but you're also a pretty not nice person, it's a bit of a life unlived. But I think one thing to mention, and I think this is the biggest misconception about visualization, is that most of my work isn't actually about just the goal visualizations. It's a very small part of how you can harness the brain and the mind. Because, in life as well, things happen. We can't always control the curveballs, the illnesses, the deaths, anything. There's things we can't control. So where I also love then bringing in this training element is looking, okay, it's process visualization, it's creative visualization, it's negative visualization, explorative. There are so many facets to how we can train the brain. It's not just, I want this, how am I going to make it happen? Yes, it's a part of it. We have to see mental fitness as a holistic thing where you're really looking at everything from your thoughts to your emotions to also your performance and goals.
Yeah. And I think that leads us really nicely onto the book, which of course we have to mention, called Visualize, aptly named. And you mentioned there the different types of visualization. I think for people at home who might be coming to the concept of visualization for the first time might have an idea of a certain type, but maybe they're missing all of these other aspects. And certainly for me, I'm probably familiar and have practiced 2 or 3 of those styles, but some of them are new to me. So can you give us a bit of a 101 of the different styles of visualization? Also just a bit more about the book.
Yeah. So, what always really kind of fascinated me is the last proper book that really looks at visualization was 1984. Now, there have been people since, Tara Swart's a great example, who talks about it in her book, Joe Dispenza, David Hamilton. These are all brilliant people in their field who talk about it. But the depth that we could go into is just amazing. And so, in the book, it's really about, I want people to master it. I want them to master the technique so they can apply it to all different areas. So we've mentioned outcome visualization is where you're seeing the results in advance. So let's say you want to complete a marathon this year. You would see yourself crossing that finish line. It's nothing about the how. Just see yourself doing it so you can build the belief to make it happen. Then we have process visualization. This is where you are mentally rehearsing the movements, the actions, like the things like the walking into the rooms. It's where you're making a task easier, better, or faster. So athletes like Tiger Woods would mentally rehearse every swing of his golf game. And what that did is when he was there, he'd done that shot so many times. It wasn't about where the ball goes. It was about, what is my body doing? How does it feel in my hand? So again, if you were running this marathon, you would be focusing on, well, I want to see myself actually running, sweating, feeling the pain in my body so I can push through those. Then we have creative, probably my favorite. This is where you use mental imagery to make your emotions or feelings or pain tangible. So, my introduction to visualization was when I was quite ill, and I used creative visualization for my pain. So my colon was really in pain. And I used to imagine the pain was like these piranhas eating my insides. I know it sounds a bit strange, but this is where the power lies, is the brain has no idea if you're imagining this or if it's actually happening. And so what I would do in my visualizations, I would just shoot all the piranhas. I just shoot them because it was helping me to take control over it. So this you can use for anxiety, you can use for fear, you can use for if you've got an injury, anything like that. Then we have negative visualization. I don't teach to everyone because, like we said at the beginning of the podcast, you're already doing it. Most people are doing it. Where it is really useful is it can help you prepare better. So if you know you're doing a big presentation or a big run, you can visualize what could go wrong, but see yourself overcoming it. And that will just prepare you a lot better than if you didn't. And then lastly, we've got explorative. And this is what the likes of Nikola Tesla, Walt Disney, Einstein used to create ideas, solve problems. It's probably the most undocumented version of it, but you find it in Walt Disney's journals and Einstein's documents as well. And it's amazing. It's so cool how creative you can get. And I use it to create content. I use it to solve problems, make decisions. So those are the 5. Some people resonate with more than others, and that's great. The point is you keep strengthening the muscle of your brain with it.
How do you go about creating space for these practices, right? Because I think the first point you made when I asked you where would you start with people say they're too busy to do these things, right? So what would a setup look like? Like if I'm at home, is it before I go to bed? Is it in the morning? Do I put in my calendar time? How would you think about that for someone?
Yeah, and I think obviously I think wellness habits are so tough because we are bombarded with so many. It's wake up at 4 a.m, do ice baths, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So what I would say is make it so small. Just make it so small, even if it's just a minute or 2 minutes. That is going to be worth it because with visualization, it's not so much about the length you do it, it's the repetition. Now, the good thing is because the way the brain rewires actually happens at night, whether you do it in the morning or at night, it's all good. So I think morning's a great time. It sets me up for my day, but sometimes I literally do it when I'm in bed and it's fine. It's just 2 minutes. I close my eyes and I'm intentional with it. If you feel like you're quite a disciplined person, then I would suggest starting between 5 to 7 minutes every day, or at least 3 times a week for 30 days. The changes you will see will be pretty immediate, but the key is the repetition. So doing, let's say, 1 hour visualization once a week is less effective than doing 2 minutes every day. And so when I first started, it was 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and now, yeah, I do love to do an hour or so, but that's because I want to. But I'll give you an example. So I was working with this individual who's very, very busy. And he was just Maya, I won't have time to do this. I can't do these visualizations. So we made them micro visualizations, tiny things that he just stacked on things he already did. So before he had his morning coffee, he would close his eyes and he would do the 2 minutes. And the coffee was kind of a reward for it. Fine, I don't mind that. And just before going to bed, he would do the exact same thing. Before he, watched the news or watched his TV, he would do those 2 minutes. So we made them so small that it's so hard not to do. Even if it's 30 seconds, I don't mind, but just start getting good at adding it into your day.
I like the idea of attaching it to things you already do. I try and do it in the sauna when Jamie's not trying to talk to me. I try and do it in the sauna because you think, okay, I'm here for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, at least an element of it. I can start to, that I know when I go in there, what else will I do? Chat, read a book, whatever. It's an opportunity. So maybe those moments where I already know I'm going to be in this location for this much time and there's no distraction other than Jamie, you can then put it in, right?
Even on the tube, I did it on the tube.
Yeah.
I get it. Some people don't do it in public, but sometimes if I'm a bit rushed, I'll find another way to get it in.
It's London. You're not going to look that old, are you? The things you see on the tube.
There's weirder stuff happening.
There's weirder stuff happening.
But you would be surprised. I get a lot of looks. And isn't it weird though that if I'm doing a meditation or a visualization in the middle of Oxford Circus, it's so weird. But then if someone's running, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Physical fitness is so accepted. Mental fitness is just oh my God, that's really weird.
We're just completely at odds with any sense of stillness. So it's Oxford Circus, the pinnacle of this in terms of perpetual motion and noise. It's just overstimulating, overwhelm, all of this stuff. And that's why I love these micro pauses. And it's something I encourage through my work as well. And that is what builds up for people. And beyond the direct practice of, say, breathwork or visualization or meditation or whatever you choose that practice to be, there is power in just getting still. Because actually from a a creative process and an alignment process, it's in that stillness that you are able to even get close to listening to what it is that you really want. And it's from that stillness that you can go, okay, now I can visualize, now I can create, now I can actually see what I want. Whereas I think the majority of people are on to the next thing. And we fill the spaces with, as we all do, because the tech is working against us, with scrolling, with, work. There's always something to do. So actually finding that stillness is such an important part of life, but also of this kind of process, right?
I wish we understood how powerful stillness really is. And the truth is, we're so scared of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's the very famous experiment where you had the men and women who were put in a room and they were told, well, just sit here for 15 minutes on your own with your thoughts, or you can electric shock yourself. And it was over 60% of people electric shocked themselves. One guy did it like 15 times. He just couldn't handle being there on his own with the thoughts. And, that's a lot of people. But there is so much power in being able to just sit, listen to your body, listen to your mind. And it's, we're not human doings, we're human beings. And once we embrace that slightly, like, I don't know if you find this, but the stiller I am, the better I perform, the better I can create, the better I can, interact and rise. And because you have to take those moments of doing nothing to then appreciate all the other things you're doing. But again, you don't need to be still for like hours. Just take 2 minutes, and watch how different it is the way you show up to a meeting. Take 2 minutes before you just get out of bed, before you go on your emails and get bombarded. Just take 2 minutes, 10 seconds, one breath, one moment. You have the power to just choose that stillness in one moment.
And the stillness can be active. It doesn't have to be fully passive, right? Now we've got the point of, I was speaking to someone the other day about developing content for TV, let's say, that's second screen adapted content, meaning that you can be on your phone and stay in line, in tune with what's happening on the screen, which is wild. Like, we can't even focus on one screen at this point. Yeah. So things like when you're having your, as you mentioned, your melon, we're going to talk about melon in a second. You're having your melon in the morning. Yeah. Just being present with the process of eating that food. And I'm not going to go on a whole nutrition point, but the way that you draw nutrients from that food is enhanced by being present in that, reducing stress, being conscious, being aware as you eat, versus I'm eating and I'm scrolling and I'm having a conversation and the TV's on all at the same time. Yeah. Like, it's the opposite of being still. So no one's even asking you to like sit there in meditation for 15 minutes. It's like, can you sit with one thing as a starting point? Talking about melon. Yeah. It blew my mind. Melon for breakfast. Top 3 types of melon. Let's go.
So I eat one melon every day. Okay. I'd say snowball melons are the best. Then El Paso, and I was saying these are Brazilian melons, but you can find them in Tesco.
Only found in Brazil.
Yeah,
and Tesco.
Yeah. Thank you, importation. And honeydew.
Did you visualize speaking about melons on this podcast today?
No, I didn't. But it's a huge part of my life, huge part. And I think but it's funny, right? Like, melon, yes, is good for you, but in some ways it's also why I'm very disciplined. It's a thing that I don't do for the sake of it. It's like, I know it's good for me, and that thing I start in the morning, it's part of my morning routine, and I love that. And I think it's just that thing of, we all have different habits and, things we eat, and that's why I never say it's not a one size fits all. You've got to personalize what your health and your happiness looks like, because success for me is everything to do with health. That is literally what success means for me. So of course my habits are going to align to that a lot more than maybe your average 26-year-old.
I love that you said that. And this is the essence of why Jamie and I are having these conversations, right? Is there's so much information out there. If you were to just blindly adopt one arbitrary practice and put it in because you heard that it was good on a podcast without testing how it feels, you can end up doing something that actually doesn't work for you or resonate. Yes. So you're like, I eat melon for breakfast because I feel great when I do it. Yeah. Right. So yes, trial things, but ultimately it's that stillness to listen to what works really well for you. And if it works for you, that's the test, right?
And I think this is one of the biggest problems we face at the moment with wellness culture is this mass externalization of control and responsibility, because you go, well, I resonate with Maya. I like Maya. Maya eats melon every morning. I'm going to eat melon every morning. Not even trying to listen to, why do I want to do that?
Yeah.
And how do I feel after I do that?
Yes.
And I think that's the wildest thing, is we're going, yeah, whatever you say, I'll do. And completely robbing ourselves of any sense of, does that feel good? Like, does that actually work for you? And that's what I've found in my own life, is that the stuff that sticks for me is the stuff that works for me. Like, if I'm doing something just because, it's a very quick habit to disappear and fall away.
Yeah. And I think, you raise the bigger question of, I get it, in this space, there are experts, like, I say I'm one of them for the mind, but at the end of the day, you are the expert of your mind and body. But you can't be the expert if you don't have the awareness. So it really comes down to that point. And, I see on so many podcasts and books, it's like, never eat dairy, you'll get cancer. Or like, this oat milk now is like poisonous. And you're just like, well, what am I meant to do? Like, just have water all my life? Like, and some people say, yeah, do that, because that's the best thing for you. And I think we've forgotten how to think for ourselves. And so it really is reminding yourself that you are the expert of your mind and body. No one else can experience it. So that's why you have to ask, is it good for me? And do I feel good? And I'd say the biggest trap is, don't mistake something that is like, that feels good for you with something that actually is good for you. Because if I'm eating like a pizza, I'm going to feel great. I love it. But me doing that every day, like it's that slight nuance difference as well. It's
a real skill, I think. And I think it's an important act of discernment to be able to get into the weeds of that. And I don't think it's a really important one, but it's a hard one for people to get their head around, I think, because I always talk about how the nervous system, what it craves isn't what it needs. So it craves the familiar, but what it might need is the unfamiliar. And to begin with, the unfamiliar might feel good, but it will feel sticky and awkward and uncomfortable. And actually, you just have to, this is where the knowledge is helpful.
Yes.
Understand how things work, why things are good, why things are not good. And then look at your patterns, look at your vices, look at how you behave when you're uncomfortable, and go, is this thing actually serving me? And if not, how can I move away from that and work away from that? And
how to think, not what to think. Right?
Exactly.
I think a really good example of this is like, okay, so let's say you come home from work and you're very stressed, you've had a long day, you're feeling pretty tired, and you just want to like, just not work anymore. Probably you would, let's say, emotionally eat or just order a takeout, right? But actually, if you just paused and said, what do I think I actually need right now? What does my mind need? What does my body need? I bet you most times you would not say, I need a pizza.
Yeah.
You'd probably say, actually, I think I may just need to go for a walk for a second. I may need to just catch up with a friend and just express how I'm feeling. Maybe I just need to take a bit of a nap. And I think it's just, again, that pause and then asking yourself the question, even though it may not be the right thing, even that slight pause will at least help your decision-making be a bit more intentional.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. It's a very small thing all of us can do to help.
This thing where like, I don't know I say this quite a lot. It's like, I give really good advice to other people. Really crap advice to myself.
That's funny.
It's almost like a useful kind of thought that I use for this is, what advice would I give to my best friend?
Right.
In this situation.
Yes.
Right. And that can be quite a helpful lens to look through, because it's very often in conflict with what the immediate response that I want to do for myself. Right. We're talking about this recently, and like when I keep referencing Jamie in the gym, I'm going to stop bullying him. But
that's funny. We get it. You go to the gym.
Yeah, we train.
We train. But it's like you can, if you're feeling stressed, anxious, the gym can be a great outlet. Right. And previously I've maybe used it, but the intention is important, because previously I've used it to not feel what I'm feeling and actually to hurt myself. That's why I've used it.
It's so true.
Whereas an intention around, okay, I'm going to use this to really to channel this energy, but while I'm in there, I'm not got my headphones on, I'm not speaking to everyone. I'm going to use it to feel into my body.
Yeah.
And it's an outlet, as opposed to, I just want to feel pain.
Yes.
And the practice may be the same, but the intention around it is very different.
It's this subtle thing. We see it with psychedelics, we see it with breathwork, we see it with any modality that we can explore ourselves with. Very fine line between escapism and processing and integration.
Yeah.
And we're so good at deceiving ourselves that sometimes you'll be like, yeah, man, I'm using this to process, and you are in fact using it to escape. And so it's just, again, with all of this stuff, not beating yourself up for it either. If you pause and realize maybe the pizza isn't the best thing, you can still have the pizza. But it's, as you said, that subtle pause just to align with the intentionality and make a conscious decision to do the quote unquote bad thing or the less healthy thing. But if you're doing it intentionally, then it takes some of the sting out of it because you're off of autopilot.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I guess, like, to be fair, people hate it when I say this, but because I constantly get told I go to the gym for my mental health, I'm like, okay, but that's actually not going to solve what's going on here. Like, you can go, you can run, and yes, it's going to feel good. Your mind might feel clearer. But if you still have those negative thoughts, those limitations, those doubts, that is work you have to do in your own mental gym. The gym can help, and you'll feel better in the moment. And the discipline of that is so good for your mind. Don't get me wrong, but we can't mistake going to the gym and physically training the same as mental fitness or mental training. It's just not the same.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. I get so frustrated with the running is my therapy gang. It's like, oh yeah, running is my therapy. But it's like, no, bro, go to therapy. Because it's that difference between symptom management and root cause prevention, right? It's actually dealing with the stuff that is within you that is creating that feeling of needing to escape or anxiety or whatever it might be in terms of mental health. And doing both is great. We have to work with symptoms and address the root cause. But if that's your only thing to escape or to prevent or whatever it might be, then it's never going to get to the root of what's creating that discomfort.
And it just keeps coming back, and then it comes out in breakdowns, or you're like, but why am I not feeling better? And it's like you're doing all the right stuff. And I just think obviously it's different for everyone. I just think it's that conscious effort to kind of do the scary bits and like face the really hard emotions that you have been sitting with for years that of course we've numbed. Like it's easier. And sometimes the harder route will just give you the easier life, but we always choose the easy option, which ends up being the harder life.
I would overlay all of this with the fact that you're even here, listening to this, the fact that you're even pursuing a better way. You need to have a degree of compassion for yourself and even recognizing these things, right? Because it isn't easy. And all of us are on this, like we're on a quest to try and improve ourselves. It's hard. It's hard unless you can acknowledge that and say, actually, okay, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. Even to be on this path, on this journey is a huge kind of like, well done, right? Because there's many walking around that aren't, and we've all at one moment been that person who isn't. So I think that like that thing of like, okay, maybe I'm not where I want to be, but the fact that you're even trying, I think is a really big thing.
And I think seeing it as like kind of an adventure, like the wellness journey and the pursuit of health and happiness can be very playful. And sometimes that's lost in, you've got to do this, here's the discipline, you've got to be like macho, whatever it is, right? But actually sometimes just laughing and having fun is a massive part of the wellness thing. So, sometimes it's just like, it just really comes back to that intention. Like, are you trying to lead the life you want to? And there are times I just love sitting in bed watching Netflix for 8 hours. That is great for my wellness. There are times I'm out doing like a 4-hour walk. Like, it's not to say that there are these rules. It's just to say that you've got to, I guess, do it for you and go on that adventure. Yes, get the support, but really enjoy the pursuit of it rather than just thinking I have to reach this point. Enjoy that pursuit.
Yeah,
Jay,
absolutely.
You got any final thoughts?
Final thoughts? No, I think it's been everything I thought it would be and more. Is there anything that you feel, not necessarily that we've missed, but that you'd like to share with people that perhaps we haven't touched on yet?
I guess the most important lesson, and if anyone's going to take anything away, would be your mind is like a puppy, and if you don't train it, it will shit everywhere.
Amen.
So
finish on
go
that.
train that.
Let's end there. That's it. Maya, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.